Welcome back to the Newblood Championships and the final heat of the competition. Our final 8 competitors are gearing up for the last shot for the finals, and it's going to be a good show. So let's check out our final heat and get ready for what's about to kick off. It's our last heat for the Newblood Championships, and this should be one hell of a fight as well. The Kraken with the crushing claws and swinging circular saw arm against the crushing beak of Touchy-Feely. Harvester, the tractor machine with a rotating blade against the crushing beak of Petunia. Wambulance with a very steep CO2 flipper against the unique CO2 flipper of Syndagro. And Skewer with the axe and lifting arm like a dollar store mortis against the spinning flywheel vinyl record player of Scratchy. Let the wars begin! The Kraken Spinner! A deadly monster from the deep with big pincers that have had tons of holes drilled through to help keep the weight down, and a swinging arm with a circular saw to cut up its prey before devouring. The driver is also quite impressive, as we saw in the wildcard against Tornado. They lost, but the driver is still very impressive. And the arm can help the machine self-right, which they'll be doing a fair bit, as the big arms offer quite a ground clearance. Touchy-Feely Crusher! This is the team's first ever machine, so they don't expect to do all that well, but they do think they'll have a fairly decent chance. A very low wedge leading up to the big crushing beak to drop down and crunch through the armor. Granted, it does look a bit like a Razor clone, except instead of 4 wheels it has 2 big exposed ones, and also unlike Razor, there's no Shreemac.
Robot ears, stand by.
The Kraken with their front pincers, the little wedge and their dropping circular saw, and Touchy-Feely with the wedge leading to their crushing beak.
3,
or claw, whatever it is they're calling that thing. I don't know, they're all the same to me. Beak, claw, whatever. It's a crusher, that's all that matters, but right now it seems to be crushing into the body of the Kraken, who's dropping their saw down and trying to do whatever damage they can, and I think that saw is going to do more damage, really, than the crushing claw on Touchy-Feely. But Touchy-Feely... sorry, is this a robot combat fight, or is this a ballerina dance? I have no idea. Touchy-Feely, now under pressure again from the Kraken, who's dropping the saw down. And Touchy-Feely, all of a sudden, seems in trouble. That's quite clever, using their weapon to stay down and drive in. But I think there's a problem here with Touchy-Feely. They're not really moving fluidly. I think one of the drives is gone. I think their left-hand side drive is gone. Now, is the Kraken trying to slice off the crushing claw of Touchy-Feely, I wonder? Can Touchy-Feely get can the Kraken, get Touchy-Feely into the pit? I don't think so. They've just pushed him into the corner. Dropping their blade again to slice down on Touchy-Feely. And I do think there's a problem. I don't think Touchy-Feely has complete control. I think they are a bit immobilized. And is the Kraken backing off because they know they've won? I think so, although the Kraken is suddenly moving a lot slower. Even the speed of their arm is not all that. Oh, the ball flipper's thrown them over! Well, at least it's done something for once in this special. Look at this. Up goes the floor flipper, and up and over goes the Kraken. Now, can the Kraken right themselves almost? Their circular saws causing them to bounce off the floor. But Touchy-Feely, I think they are immobilized. And I think that smoke I saw, there is smoke. There's smoke coming from Touchy-Feely. I think Touchy-Feely is completely burnt out. That's what's wrong with them. They're immobilized!
Cease.
And that's it! And I think we'll have to go to the judges on this one, but I think Touchy-Feely were immobilized before the Kraken went up and over. And I'm just being relayed the message from the judges, and they agree with me. Touchy-Feely immobilized and out. The Kraken's through. Next up, Harvester and Petunia. Harvester. Spinner. Designed to look like a tractor, which sort of pulls off. The front mulcher will help turn their opponents into metal compost, and the rear spikes to add additional protection. But the big exposed wheels offer a ground clearance which can be taken advantage of, and each wheel has their own drive chain, which are equally exposed. Petunia Crusher. A Dutch machine that's had many battle experience from Battleboard, so it's no slouch in robot combat. A bigger two-wheel drive machine with a wedge and crushing beak that can actually help the machine self-right. Of course, as stated, it has two big wheels and they are very exposed.
Robot ears, stand by.
Harvester, with their rear spikes and their front mulching lawnmower blade, and the Dutch machine Petunia, with the wedge and the crushing claw beak. Like a little mini razor, I think.
2, 1. Activate.
Now, Petunia does have more experience. And been flipped over immediately by Harvester. Well, I didn't see that coming. I didn't expect Harvester to throw Petunia up and over. And I also didn't expect Harvester to be more on top as they are pushing Petunia towards the pit of oblivion and have pushed them down it. That's the second famous victory for them. They got their famous victory in the wildcard special last year against Firestorm. And they've pulled another one here by knocking out the Dutch machine Petunia, who's had lots of combat experience on Battlebots. Well done, Harvester! Nothing else I can really say about that. Well done to Harvester as they get a second famous victory under their belt. Next up, Wambulance and Sidagro. Wambulance. Flipper. A front flipper on a very huge sled, which immediately makes me question its effectiveness. The design of the machine itself looks like it's capable of rolling back onto its wheels, I think. But there is a limited gas supply for the flipper, and like I just said, I'm not overly sure if it can roll back onto its wheels or not. Synthagro Flipper. An extremely interesting flipper that I don't think has ever been seen before in Robot. Oh wait, Maelstrom. Okay, never mind. The CO2 flipper actually has the power to cause the machine to throw itself over along with its opponent and a very low wedge. But the big wheels are exposed, and they also offer a very big ground clearance which can be taken advantage of.
Robot ears, stand by.
Wambulance, with their very steep CO2 flipper, and Synthagro with their own CO2 flipper, and one of the more unique flippers we've actually seen in Robot Wars.
3, 2, 1. Activate.
I wonder how effective it'll be against Wambulance. Well, not if they wheelie like that off the starting block, but, well, that push, if they had pushed a little bit further, could have sent Wambulance down the pit. Instead, Wambulance gets a flip in, and again, and Synthagro misses that flip, and again, and Synthagro needs to be very careful and not fall into the pit like that. There's no coming back from that one, not with the type of flipper you have. It's not powerful enough. Syndagro's out. Well, that was very poor driving on their part. They spun into the pit, and a Wambulance heads on through easily. Poor Syndagro, I bet they feel real gutted about that. Commiserations to them. Wambulance, they go through. Next up, Skewer and Scratchy. Skewer. Flipper Axe Bot. A machine whose body took inspiration from Mortis, with an axe looking like something that nicked off Kilohertz. The axe is sharp and the flipping arm seems like it could be as effective as Mortis' arm. Of course, unlike Mortis, this machine runs on wheels instead of tracks. and the team's not overly convinced on the effectiveness on the lifting arm, because they never really tested it. Scratchy! Spinner! Not a very big body, but a very big blade that looks a lot like a vinyl record, which was the point of the machine, as it's meant to look like it. The arm can also help the machine right itself back into the action to get its blade to do some serious damage, and it does look like it'll do damage. But the wheels are exposed, the ground clearance is easy to slide under, and it's extremely easy to push about.
Robot ears, stand by.
Time to see who is truly best of these two. Skewer with their axe and lifting arm, Scratchy with their vinyl record flywheel. They fought before in the preliminary stages along with Rat Attack. Skewer came out on top there.
1.
Scratchy ended up in the pit. Can Scratchy get vengeance? Well, probably not after that. And not if they can't self-right. They've righted themselves. But are now once again in trouble. And there goes the spiked axe through the top of Scratchy. And it's jamming the self-righting mechanism as well. Oh! Skewer's throwing themselves over! How deep is that axe in there for them to do that? Look at this! Their axe isn't so deep, they try and retract it, and instead, they pull themselves up and over on top of Scratchy. And Scratchy, surprisingly, can drag them around. Skewer trying to right themselves, but are in trouble. Scratchy is not making that easy for them. I don't think their lifting arm can right themselves. Their axe can. It has enough power in it, and enough to push Scratchy and push them up and over. And Skewer trying to do whatever damage they can do to Scratchy, and try and avoid what they did earlier, but they've done it again. Their axe has gone through Scratchy in the Okay, well, they can do that, but I think Skewer's still gonna have the advantage. Look at this. They bring their axe back with Scratchy attached, overbalanced. They fire their axe and they throw themselves over again. But Scratchy stuck on the. Well, that's one way of pinning your opponent. Probably one of the more unorthodox methods, but it works. Have them attached to your weapon, fire their axe, and watch it go. Just fire down with them attached to it. Now they've thrown themselves into the pit as well. But well, regardless, Skewer goes through in fantastic fashion. I don't think I've ever seen something like that before in Robot Wars. That was just glorious. Scratchy there out at Skewer going through. This is how the second round looks. Skewer will be taking on the Kraken later. At first, it's the steep flipper of Wambulance taking on our tractor machine, Harvester.
Robot ears, stand by.
Wambulance with the steep CO2 flipper, and Harvester with the rear spikes and the front lawnmower mulching blade that got a very good victory on Batunia
3,
earlier.
2, 1, activate.
If they can get a victory over Wambulance, that'll be quite the surprise, but I don't think that's going to happen. Not if they're flipped up and over, and they can't drive both ways up. They don't have a stream deck, and I do think that's the end for Harvester here. Flung away again, righted though, so maybe there is hope for Harvester, unless they're on the side. That is just fantastic. Using your wheels to drive, I've never seen that. Oh, that's brilliant. Up and over they go again. And I do think this is going to be the end for Harvester, as Wambulance pushes them towards the pit. And I think one final nudge really is all it needs for Harvester to say adios to the competition. And there you go, into the pit. And that's the the end of Harvester. Oh! Trying to drive out, are you? Well, you can try. It's not going to happen. Oh! But Wambulance will flip you out of the pit. Well, that's very sporting of them. Just to dump them back in it. What was the point then? Wambulance, do you want to do it again? Seriously? This just feels like you're toying with them at this point. Brilliant. They can't... You're not getting him out, and I think they've realized that at this point. Maybe they can. They're driving towards... No, cease is called. No such luck for Wambulance to get them out again. Harvester down the pits. They're not coming out, not again. They are out of here. And it's Wambulance through to our heat final. Well done to Wambulance for reaching the heat final. Commiserations to Harvester. Hope to see you again in the next wars. Next up, it's Skewer and the Kraken.
Robot ears, stand by.
Skewer with the spiked axe and the lifting arm. And the Kraken with their pincers, their dropping circular saw and their little wedge. Have they fixed the battery issues from their previous fight with Touchy Feely, I wonder?
2, 1, activate.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. Already they've ramped up the front of Skewer, but now they're underneath Skewer and dropping that circular saw down. While they're stuck on the spike, not a great place to be. Skewer lifting their arm up for some reason, I don't know why. And Kraken, once again, what's that on the floor there? You're gonna see something on the floor. What is that, I wonder? Who's that even from? Is it vital? Is it important? I don't know. But right now, Skewer pushing the Kraken towards the pin and down it. And that's a great drive there from Skewer. The Kraken put up a good fight at first, but Skewer got the upper hand and threw them down the pit. They're not coming out of that one, I can tell you. It's Skewer meeting Wambulance in our heat final. Commiserations to the Kraken, who we have seen before do very well. They stood up well against Tornado in the last wild card, and they stood up well against Behemoth in Battle of the YouTubers on the main channel. But they crash out here, the heat final for Heat 6, our final Newblood Championship heat. Features Wambulance for their flipper, and the flipping arm and spiked axe of Skewer. The heat final. The last heat final of the Newblood Championships. With Wambulance and Skewer. And this will be a very good heat final. Quick recap how they got here with Wambulance taking on Sint Aggro, which is mostly just them flipping Sint Aggro, which is very easy thanks to their ground clearance. Sint Aggro couldn't really do anything to them and ended up reversing and spiraling into the pit. And then Harvester flipped quite a couple times. Even got them up on this tower. They began driving on their wheels like that. Don't know how. But then a final nudge from Wambulance saw the end of Harvester down to the pit. And there was no real coming back from that. Skewer, meanwhile, struggled surprisingly in their rematch against Scratchy. They threw themselves up and over here while trying to retract their axe, but for the majority of the fight, they were on top. And then, one of the more unorthodox methods of throwing your opponent down the pit. And then the Kraken, who seemed to be giving Skewer quite a fair few number of problems, while the spike was giving them problems. But a good shove here saw the end of the Kraken down the pit.
Robot ears, stand by.
Wambulance with their very steep CO2 powered flipper, and Skewer with their axe and their lifting arm.
3, 2, 1, Activate.
Who will be reaching the grand finals of the Newblood Championships? Who will be taking that final spot? From the looks of it, it might just be Skewer, actually, as they nearly had Wambulance to overturn, but Wambulance get to flip it on Skewer. And now Skewer to try and overturn them again, but the spike messes them up. And right now, they're both desperate. They both desperately want to prove they have what it takes. They both reached the same spot in the main competition, and oh! Skewer throwing themselves up and over. Look at this. Their own axe sent them flying backwards, up and over. And that's interesting, and that might have to be something they look into for the next wars. Meanwhile, Wambulance trying to get underneath Skewer and try and throw them up and over. But Wambulance in trouble. Skewer able to outmaneuver them. They're quicker and have overturned Wambulance. Roly-poly up and over. And that's going to be a problem for Wambulance. Down goes the axe, penetrating part of the body. Not like it did with Scratchy, but penetrated enough to somewhat pull them back. Now on the floor, flipping themselves again with their axe. I thought an axe was supposed to cause problems for your opponent, not problems for yourself. Well, nevertheless, Skewer, right now, very dominant in this. They're very controlling, getting around the side of Wambulance again. They're a lot quicker than Wambulance. They can easily outmaneuver them. And that's what they're using to their advantage. And dropping that axe down as Wambulance tries to use their flipper to no real success though. And here comes Skewer with another push. And oh, what have they done? Well, that was a shame for Skewer. Look at this. They push away at Wambulance, but they were too far towards the pit and fell in themselves. And then Wambulance crashed down with them. That is such a shame. It's Skewer crashing out and going home. And it's Wambulance heading on through, taking that final spot in the Newblood Championships Grand Finals. Well done, Wambulance. A great heat final with two strong machines with great metal for the finals. But it's Skewer who crashes out and Wambulance who becomes our final grand finalists. Let's see how well they do. But until then, take care, and I'll see you next time. Farewell.